On the night of 5th through 6th April 1944, a Westland Lysander flies low in darkness over the Loire Valley near Azay-le-Rideau, its engine muted to avoid notice. The Special Operations Executive, under Maurice Buckmaster, in London, deploys Violette Szabo to the salesman circuit led by Philippe Liewer, her mission to revive a broken resistance network. The aircraft sets down on a grass strip, wheels sinking into soft earth. She grabs her kit and follows a reception committee off the field, their silhouettes fading into the night. As Corinne Reine-Leroy, a secretary from Le Havre, she tucks forged papers into her coat and moves toward a safe house, her steps cautious under a moonless sky. The network, once 120 strong across Rouen and Dieppe, lies fractured by arrests, its survivors wary. Her task is to assess damage, reconnect fighters, and scout German war factories. The constraint was exposure. German patrols tightened daily, shrinking her window to move unseen. She boards trains to Rouen, blending with civilians, her eyes tracking soldiers at checkpoints who demand papers with cold precision. In shadowed cafes, she meets resistance contacts, exchanging coded phrases to unlock trust and gather intelligence on munitions plants. Her notes, moved by courier to London, inform SOE planning and target development. The number that matters is 1. Each betrayal risks collapsing the entire circuit. Her role as courier binds scattered Maquis, her movements threading plans for sabotage through a web of distrust. Curfews force her to shift routes mid-journey, her forged identity a fragile shield against Gestapo scrutiny. She navigates backroads and safe houses, each step weighed against the growing hum of German searches. Her reports strengthen London's grasp of enemy operations, but time narrows as patrols close in, their boots echoing closer each night. Violette Szabo, born June 26, 1921, in Paris, grows up between Brixton's gritty streets and her French mother's Normandy roots, her bilingual tongue sharpened by necessity. Her father, a London taxi driver, and her mother, a seamstress, instill resilience. She leaves school at 14, working shops before war summons her to factories and the Women's Land Army. In 1940, she marries Etienne Chabot, a French Foreign Legion sergeant. Their love sealed on August 21st in a quiet ceremony. Their daughter, Tania, arrives June 8, 1942, but Etienne falls at El Alamein on October 24, 1942. His death a wound that fuels her defiance. The constraint was grief, she channels it into purpose, joining the First Aid Nursing Yeomanry in 1943. Recruited by the Special Operations Executive, Szabo trains in the Scottish Highlands, her body tested by weapons drills, demolition courses, and cryptography lessons. She masters Sten guns and plastic explosives, her hands steady despite a sprained ankle from a ringway parachute jump. Instructors note her precision, her memory clutching Leo Marx's poem, its lines her cipher for coded transmissions. She learns to move unseen, to kill silently, each skill honed against the ticking clock of invasion plans. The number that matters is 18 months from Etienne's death to her first mission, a crucible of will. In London's Baker Street, SOE planners brief her on the salesman circuit's collapse, tasking her to rebuild links under Philippe Liewer's command. She memorizes cover stories, her alias Corinne Reine-Leroy, a mask crafted to deceive Gestapo interrogators. Her first mission, landing near Azay-le-Rideau on April 5, 1944, tests her training. She navigates Rouen streets, her forged papers passing scrutiny at checkpoints. Intelligence gathered on factory outputs moves through couriers, each note a thread in the web of resistance. German patrols, now 120 strong in Rouen alone, tighten their grip, forcing her to shift safe houses nightly. Her courage surfaces in small acts. A glance to signal a contact, a whispered code to unlock a safe room. She evades capture by instinct, slipping through alleys as searchlights sweep. The Loire Valley's spring chill bites, but she presses on, her reports shaping SOE strategies for D-Day's approach. Each train ride risks exposure, her heart steady as she faces soldiers' stares. The network's revival hinges on her movements, a fragile chain of trust rebuilt under the shadow of betrayal's cost. On the early hours of 8 June 1944, Violette Szabo parachutes from a United States Army Air Forces Liberator over Haute-Vienne, her static line deploying the canopy above a field near Soussac. The Special Operations Executive, seizing D-Day's momentum from June 6th, inserts her into the Salesman 2 circuit under Philippe Lear, her task to link with local Maquis and relay intelligence on German movements. She lands, rolls, and buries her harness in underbrush, the drop zone marked by torch flickers from waiting contacts. As Madame Villeray, a widow from Nantes, she shoulders her kit and follows the group to a safe house, her Sten gun wrapped in oilcloth. Elements of the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich maneuver north through Haute-Vienne, their tanks clogging roads toward Normandy. Her role demands she scout rail junctions and wire lines, reports to feed London's maps of enemy logistics. The constraint was visibility. Moonlit nights exposed every shadow to patrols hunting saboteurs. She reaches a farmhouse near Limoges by dawn, where Lear briefs her on fractured links with nearby Maquis in Corrèze and Dordogne. The team, 4 strong, including wireless operator Jean-Claude Gouillet and instructor Bob Maloubier, splits to cover ground. Szabo tasked as courier to carry funds and codes between cells. She cycles through villages, her basket laden with market goods as cover, eyes noting troop trucks and fuel depots. Nearby resistance groups, active in parallel under Jacques Poirier's digger circuit, cut wires and mine tracks. Their actions a web she weaves into SOE plans. She supports Maquis training in explosives, her hands steady from Scottish drills, passing charges and timers to fighters. German columns rumble 120 miles south of Normandy's beaches, their pace harried by motorcycle scouts. She slips into a barn to dodge a foot patrol, breath held as boots crunch past the door. On June 10th, Szabo joins Jacques Dufour and Jean Barriot in a Citroën, bound toward liaison with Poirier's network, when a Das Reich roadblock halts them near Salon-la-Tour, rifles trained on the dust cloud. Barriot slips out unarmed to warn the circuit, while Szabo and Dufour grab weapons from the seat. She dives behind an apple tree, her Sten firing bursts to cover Dufour's dash into wheat fields. Rounds crack against stone walls, German Mausers snapping back, splintering bark near her shoulder. She reloads under fire, her ankle twisting on uneven ground from an old training sprain. The number that matters is 8 magazines carried into the ambush. Her fire holds the soldiers long enough for Dufour to vanish, but her clip empties, and hands seize her wrists. German records note the skirmish near Salon-la-Tour, a brief delay in their hunt for abducted commander Helmut Kampfe. She faces questioning in a Limoges guardhouse, her alias holding under slaps, revealing only a widow's tale. By evening, Sicherheitsdienst officers in a stone cell demand Maquis names, their lamps glaring as kicks bruise her legs. She locks her jaw, trained responses deflecting through pain. The constraint was endurance interrogations stretched hours, each silence a cut into resolve. Transferred to Fresnes prison by June 15th, she shares a cell with thieves, her bilingual quips easing their fear as she slips them bread scraps. At Avenue Foch headquarters, SS interrogators under SS Sturmbannführer Kowach press for 4 days, harsh methods yielding nothing as she clings to Lear's codes. On August 8th, she boards a sealed wagon for Ravensbruck, the train crawling through bombed rail yards. Crammed with prisoners, the car reeks of sweat and waste, rations a fist of ersatz bread daily. She shares sips from a smuggled flask, her French hymns steadying weaker women against the jolts. Ravensbruck's gates close behind her in mid-August, a sprawl of barbed wire and mud under Prussian skies. She joins labor details, digging potatoes in thin soil, hands raw from frost, gales whipping the lakeshore. Among 1,000 French women sent to Torgau subcamp, Szabo works in Heinkel factories, assembling aircraft parts under dim lights and SS eyes. The number that matters is 1,000 women feeding Luftwaffe production. Smuggled cigarettes from POW contacts trade for news of Allied advances, her spirit unbent. Back at Ravensbruck by October, she mends rags in the fabric store, fingers nimble despite calluses, bonding with Denise Bloch and Lillian Rolfe over whispered escape plans amid typhus coughs. Guards shift her to tree felling in November's sub-zero winds, axes biting pine as snow buries the fallen. She slips crusts to Hortense Daman, a Belgian courier, under bunks when guards turn. By January 1945, starvation claims the frail, but Szabo kneels unbowed in the execution yard on or before February 5th, a pistol's crack silencing her alongside Bloch and Rolfe. Her body feeds the crematorium, ash scattering on Baltic winds. Szabo's courier work in Haute-Vienne fed intelligence to London, supporting Maquis Sabotage as part of wider resistance efforts to disrupt Das Reich's march. Salesman 2, reporting informed SOE resupply through July, arms reaching fighters who harried Nazi flanks. Her posthumous George Cross in 1946 and Croix de Guerre in 1947 etch her name in memorials from Valenciennes to Hereford, her circuit's threads pulling until liberation. Violette Szabo's capture on June 10, 1944, near Salon-la-Tour, fractures the Salesman 2 circuit, yet her work as courier in Haute-Vienne leaves a web that holds. Her intelligence, smuggled through couriers to wireless operator Jean-Claude Guyet, maps German troop movements and rail lines, feeding London's plans as Allies push from Normandy. The Special Operations Executive, under Maurice Buckmaster, uses Salesman 2 reporting to arm Maquis groups, who disrupt tracks and wires to harry elements of the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, moving north through Limousin. Before her capture, Szabo trains fighters in barns, her hands guiding explosive placement, skills honed in Scottish drills. Resistance cells, linked by her coded messages, mine roads and cut telegraph lines, forcing German convoys onto muddy detours. The constraint was cohesion scattered Maquis units, numbering dozens per cell, rely on her deliveries to strike as one. In a Limoges guardhouse, Szabo faces harsh Sicherheitsdienst interrogation, her alias Madame Villeray holding under blows, her widow's tale deflecting demands for names. German officers note her silence, unaware she shields a network spanning villages from Soussac to Périgueux. Maquis groups, bolstered by her pre-capture deliveries of funds and timers, press sabotage plans she helped shape. In Corrèze, fighters ambush supply trucks, their attacks snarling German logistics as panzers grind toward Normandy. Her intelligence, passed to London via Guyet's wireless, informs SOE resupply through July, arms landing in moonlit fields to equip dozens of fighters. The number that matters is one. Each coded signal preserves the circuit's pulse. Transferred to Fresnes prison by June 15th, Szabo endures a cell's damp chill, her ribs bruised from Limoges' beatings. She shares bread scraps with a French seamstress, her whispered French easing fear as iron doors clang. At Avenue Foch, SS interrogators press through days of harsh questioning, her trained silence blocking demands for Maquis locations. Her sprained ankle, a relic of ringway jumps, throbs under shackles, yet she offers only vague tales of market routes. The constraint was betrayal. Each word risked exposing fighters like Jacques Dufour, who fled the Salon-la-Tour ambush under her Sten fire. Her defiance keeps the circuit's threads intact, Guyet's signals humming to London. On August 8th, Szabo boards a cattle car for Ravensbruck, the train crawling through bombed rail yards, air thick with sweat and despair. For weeks, she stands pressed against prisoners, her frame thinning on moldy bread, yet she slips water to a coughing girl, her French lullabies cutting the dark. Ravensbruck's gates loom in mid-August, a maze of barbed wire and mud under gray skies. Assigned to forced labor details, she digs potatoes in frozen fields, wind slicing through her smock as SS guards bark orders. Her hands, calloused from training, grip shovels, each scoop a silent defiance. Sent to a subcamp, she labors under SS eyes, sorting parts in dim sheds before returning to Ravensbruck by October. The number that matters is one. Each act of resistance guards her spirit. In Ravensbruck's fabric store, Szabo mends rags, her needle steady despite frostbitten fingers. She bonds with Denise Bloch and Lillian Rolfe, their whispers of escape drowned by typhus coughs in the barracks. In November, guards march her to tree-felling details, axes biting pine in sub-zero winds as snow buries the fallen. She slips crusts to Hortense Daman, a Belgian courier, under bunks when guards turn, her Brixton quips lifting spirits. Maquis fighters, fueled by Salesman 2's work, press on through July. In Corrèze, they scatter nails on roads, slowing German trucks, while near Limoges, explosives sever rail lines, planned with timers Szabo delivered. These acts, part of wider resistance efforts, tangle German supply lines, aiding Allied gains. Salesman 2's reports, built on Szabo's intelligence, guide SOE drops of Sten guns and explosives through July, arming fighters across Limousin. The constraint was scale individual sabotage ripples, but only mass resistance slows a division's march. London's planners, reading Guyet's signals, adjust targets based on circuit reports, marking rail choke points Szabo scouted. Her work as courier and trainer though halted by capture, strengthens Maquis cells, their strikes delaying panzers as allies break out from Normandy. In Ravensbruck, Szabo's resolve endures, her shared scraps and hymns a lifeline to prisoners like Daman, who cling to her courage. By January 1945, Ravensbruck's brutality peaks, typhus felling prisoners as rations shrink to watery broth. Szabo, weakened but defiant, shares potato scraps with Bloch and Rolf, their trio a knot of resistance. On or before February 5th, SS guards lead her to the execution yard, her knees sinking into snow as a pistol cracks, silencing her alongside her comrades. Her body vanishes in the crematorium's smoke, ash drifting over Baltic pines. The number that matters is 3 agents killed in one volley, their silence sealing Maquis' secrets. Szabo's work in Haute-Vienne, though cut short, weaves into the resistance's fabric. Her intelligence and training support sabotage that disrupts Das Reich's march, part of broader Maquis efforts. Salesman 2's signals, carrying her legacy, shape SOE drops, arming fighters who harry Nazi flanks. Her posthumous George Cross in 1946 and Croix de Guerre in 1947 etch her name in memorials from Valenciennes to Hereford. The circuit she bolstered fights on, its sabotage echoing in stalled convoys and severed wires, each act a ripple from her hands. In London, Buckmaster reviews her file, her coded poem Leo Marx's cipher, a testament in SOE records. Survivors like Daman carry her memory, her smuggled crusts, a spark in the dark. Violette Szabo's execution on or before February 5th, 1945, in Ravensbruck's frozen yard silences her voice, but the threads of her work in Haute-Vienne endure, woven into the Maquis fight. Her courier runs, delivering funds and timers, before her capture on June 10, 1944, armed resistance cells that disrupt elements of the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich. Salesman 2, under Philippe Lieuer, leans on her intelligence, smuggled through Jean-Claude Guyet's wireless, to map German rail lines and fuel depots. Maquis fighters, trained by her hands in barns near Limoges, plant explosives that buckle tracks, forcing convoys onto rutted paths 120 miles south of Normandy's front. The Special Operations Executive, guided by Buckmaster in London, uses circuit reports to drop Sten guns and charges in July, arming dozens of fighters across Limousin. The constraint was reach her. 10 days in the field limit her direct impact, yet her spark fuels a wider blaze. Before capture, Szabo's bilingual ease bridges French Maquis and British planners, her coded messages a lifeline for sabotage plans. In Corrèze, fighters, using her delivered timers, mine a road on June 12th, stalling a Das Reich truck column for hours. Near Périgueux, telegraph wires fall, cut by teams she trained, severing German orders as allies dig in at Caen. These acts, part of mass resistance, tangle Nazi logistics, slowing panzers to a crawl. Salesman 2's signals, built on her scouting, inform SOE drops through July, landing arms in moonlit fields. The number that matters is 10 days she operated before the Salon La Tour ambush ended her mission. Her reports, though halted, shape London's targets, marking choke points that bleed German supply lines. In Limoges, Szabo's silence under Sicherheitsdienst blows shields the circuit. Her alias, Madame Villeray, holds as interrogators demand names, her fabricated widow's tale deflecting their probes. German officers, unaware she protects a network from Susac to Périgueux, note her defiance in logs. Transferred to Fresnes prison by June 15th, she endures a cell's damp stone, her ribs bruised from kicks. She slips bread to a French seamstress, her whispered quips in French easing the woman's fear as guards slam doors. At Avenue Foch, SS interrogators press through days of harsh questioning, her trained silence blocking demands for Maquis hideouts. Her sprained ankle, a scar from ringway jumps, throbs under irons, yet she offers only vague market routes. On August 8th, Szabo boards a cattle car for Ravensbruck, the train grinding through shattered rail yards, its air thick with despair. For weeks, she sways among prisoners, her frame thinning on moldy bread, yet she shares water with a trembling girl, her French hymns cutting the dark. Ravensbruck's gates close in mid-August, a sprawl of barbed wire and mud under Prussian skies. Assigned to forced labor details, she digs potatoes in frozen fields, wind slicing her smock as SS guards bark. Her hands, toughened by Scottish drills, grip shovels, each scoop a quiet defiance. Sent to a sub-camp, she sorts parts in dim sheds under SS eyes, returning to Ravensbruck by October. The constraint was strength starvation. Rations of watery broth erode her body, but not her will. In the fabric store, Szabo mends rags, her needle steady despite frostbitten fingers. She bonds with Denise Bloch and Lillian Rolfe, their whispered escape plans drowned by typhus coughs. In November, guards march her to tree-felling details, axes biting pine in sub-zero winds as snow buries the dead. She slips crusts to Hortense Daman, her Brixton grit, lifting the Belgian spirits under bunks. The number that matters is one, each shared scrap, a spark of defiance. Survivors like Daman recall her hymns, her smuggled food a lifeline in Ravensbruck's dark. Her resolve, forged in grief for Etienne and love for Tanya, burns through the camp's despair. Beyond Haute-Vienne, the Maquis carries Szabo's spark. In July, Corrèze fighters, armed with SOE drops, ambush a Das Reich patrol, scattering troops with Sten fire. Near Limoges, a rail line collapses under charges, planned with timers she delivered, halting munitions for hours. These strikes, woven into broader resistance, snarl German supply chains, aiding Allied breakouts from Normandy. Salesman Two's reports, rooted in her intelligence, guide drops of arms, equipping dozens to harry Nazi flanks. London's SOE planners, reading Violette signals, adjust targets based on circuit data, marking rail hubs she scouted. The constraint was scale her work ripples, but only mass sabotage slows a division. Szabo's legacy takes root in memory. In London, Buckmaster seals her file, her coded poem Leo Marx's Cipher, a testament in SOE archives. Her George Cross, awarded in 1946, and Croix de Guerre in 1947, carve her name in stone from Valençay to Hereford. The circuit she strengthened fights on, its sabotage stalling convoys through August, each blast a nod to her hands. In Ravensbruck, Daman whispers her name, her smuggled crusts a spark for survivors. The war grinds toward victory, Allied tanks crossing the Rhine by March 1945. But Szabo's shadow looms in every derailed train, every severed wire. Her stand at Salon Latour, firing to cover Dufour's escape, echoes in Maquis tales. German records note the skirmish but list no losses, her Stens chatter a brief thorn in their hunt for Helmut Kampfe. From the German perspective, her fire delayed our sweep, scattering the line. Her capture ends her fight, but the Maquis press on, their ambushes fueled by her training. In Limousin, fighters wield her delivered Sten guns, their strikes a chorus of defiance. Salesman Two's wireless hums through July, its signals carrying her intelligence to shape SOE plans. The number that matters is 3 agents lost in Ravensbruck's execution yard, their silence guarding the resistance's secrets. Szabo's story, etched in memorials, inspires beyond the war. In 1958, Carve Her Name with Pride, a film drawn from her life, screens in London, her courage vivid in black and white frames. Hereford's museum preserves her medals, her coded poem displayed for schoolchildren tracing her path. The Maquis, bolstered by her work, disrupt Das Reich's march, their sabotage, a thread in the Allied advance. By August 1944, Limousin's liberation begins, resistance fighters joining Free French forces as Nazis retreat. Szabo's 10 days in Haute-Vienne, though brief, plant seeds that bloom in every stalled panzer, every cut wire, her resolve a beacon for those who carry the fight. Violette Szabo's execution on or before February 5, 1945, in Ravensbruck's snow-dusted yard, marks the end of her physical fight, but her work in Haute-Vienne ripples through the resistance's defiance. Her courier runs, delivering funds and timers before her June 10, 1944, capture, arm Maquis cells that harry elements of the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich. Salesman 2, led by Philippe Lieuer, relies on her intelligence, relayed through Jean-Claude Guyet's wireless, to pinpoint rail lines and fuel depots 120 miles south of Normandy. Maquis fighters, trained by her in Limoges barns, plant charges that twist tracks, forcing German convoys onto muddy paths. The Special Operations Executive, under Maurice Buckmaster, uses circuit reports to drop arms in July, equipping dozens across Limousin. The constraint was time her 10 days in the field limit her direct reach, yet her spark ignites a broader fire. Her bilingual voice, bridging French Maquis and British planners, carries codes that sustain sabotage plans. In Corrèze, fighters using her timers disrupt a road on June 12th, stalling Das Reich trucks for hours. Near Périgueux, telegraph lines fall, cut by teams she trained, severing German orders as allies fortify Caen. These strikes, woven into mass resistance, snarl Nazi supply lines, slowing panzers. Salesman Two's signals, rooted in her scouting, guide SOE, drops through July, arms landing in fields under torchlight. The number that matters is 10 days she operated before capture. Her reports, though stopped, inform London's targets, marking choke points that strain German logistics. In Limoges, Szabo's silence under Sicherheitsdienst blows, shields the circuit's remnants. Her alias, Madame Violette, holds as interrogators press, her widow's tale deflecting demands for names. German logs note her defiance, unaware she protects a network from Soussac to Périgueux. At Fresnes prison by June 15th, she endures damp cells, her ribs bruised from kicks, yet slips bread to a French prisoner, her French whispers easing fear. At Avenue Foch, SS interrogators demand Maquis hideouts through days of harsh questioning, her silence a trained wall. Her sprained ankle, from ringway jumps, aches under irons, but she offers only vague market routes. The constraint was betrayal. One word could unravel the circuit's threads. Ravensbruck's gates close in mid-August, a sprawl of barbed wire and mud. Szabo digs potatoes in frozen fields, wind cutting her smock as SS guards shout. Sent to a sub-camp, she sorts parts in dim sheds, returning to Ravensbruck by October. In the fabric store, her needle threads rags, fingers frostbitten but steady, bonding with Denise Bloch and Lillian Rolf over escape whispers amid typhus coughs. In November, she swings axes in tree-felling details, sub-zero winds biting as snow buries the weak. She slips crusts to Hortense Daman, her Brixton quips lifting the Belgian spirit. The number that matters is one each shared scrap fuel's defiance. Maquis fighters carry Szabo's spark through July. In Limousin, they ambush Das Reich patrols, Sten guns from SOE drops guided by circuit signals cracking in the dusk. Rail lines buckle under charges, planned with her timers, halting munitions as allies break out from Normandy. These acts, part of wider resistance, tangle German supply chains, forcing panzers onto backroads. Salesman Two's reports, built on her intelligence, shape SOE drops, arming fighters who press Nazi flanks. London's planners, reading Guillette's signals, target rail hubs she scouted. The constraint was scale her work ripples, but mass sabotage slows a division. Szabo's legacy endures in memory. Her George Cross, awarded in 1946, and Croix de Guerre in 1947, etch her name in Valençay and Hereford stone. In 1958, Carve Her Name with Pride films her story, her courage vivid for London audiences. Hereford's museum displays her coded poem, Leo Marx's Cipher, drawing schoolchildren to her path. In Ravensbruck, survivors like Daman recall her hymns, her smuggled crusts a lifeline, the circuit she bolstered fights on, its sabotage stalling convoys through August 1944, each blast echoing her hands. Her Salon Latour stand, firing to cover Jacques Dufour's escape, lives in Maquis tales. German records note the skirmish, a brief thorn in their hunt for Helmut Kampfe. From the German perspective, her fire stalled our sweep, scattering the line. Salesman Two's wireless hums through July, carrying her intelligence to shape SOE plans. By August, Limousin's liberation begins, resistance fighters joining Free French forces as Nazis retreat. Szabo's 10 days, in Haute-Vienne, plant seeds that bloom in derailed trains. Cut wires. Her resolve a beacon for fighters pressing toward victory. Violette Szabo's death in Ravensbruck, on or before February 5, 1945, seals her sacrifice, but her courage in Haute-Vienne burns on. Her courier work, arming Maquis cells before her capture on June 10, 1944, fuels sabotage that harries the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich. Salesman 2, led by Philippe Lieuwe, uses her intelligence, relayed through Jean-Claude Guillette's wireless, to disrupt rail lines 120 miles south of Normandy. Maquis fighters, trained by her hands, plant charges that stall German convoys, aiding Allied breakouts. The constraint was time. Her 10 days in the field limit her reach. yet her spark drives resistance forward. Her silence under Sicherheitsdienst blows in Limoges, and Avenue Foch shields the circuit, her alias Madame Villerette, a wall against betrayal. In Ravensbruck, her shared crusts and hymns with Hortense Daman defy despair, her Brixton grit a lifeline for prisoners. The number that matters is 3 agents silenced in 1 execution, their secrets buried with them. Salesman Two's reports, rooted in her scouting, guide SOE drops through July, arming dozens who cut Nazi supply lines. Szabo's legacy shines in her George Cross of 1946 and Croix de Guerre of 1947, her name carved in Valençay and Hereford memorials. The 1958 film Carve Her Name with Pride brings her story to London screens, her coded poem Leo Marx's cipher displayed in Hereford's museum. Maquis fighters, wielding her delivered Sten guns, press Sabotage through August 1944, aiding Limousin's liberation. Her stand at Salon Latour, covering Jacques Dufour's escape, lives in resistance tales, a fleeting thorn in Das Reich's flank. From the German perspective, her fire delayed our hunt. Her 10 days in Haute-Vienne ripple through every derailed train, every severed wire, her resolve a beacon as Allies march to victory.